series of impact. With me, we have Breanna Robinson, and we're going to talk life, how life has impacted you as a child, as an adult, things that adults have done that have impacted your life. So we're just going to talk about life because we know that how we live our lives that impact others. So welcome, Breanna. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Breanna, tell us, anybody watching and listening to us would want to know, who is Breanna?
Well, I think at the moment I'm a uni student. That's like the biggest thing that's going on in life right now. So I study at the University of Portsmouth, and I study criminology and forensic studies, which everyone goes, ooh, when they hear it. But I feel like it's more interesting than it sounds. Although I'm technically an adult, I still feel like a child in many ways. So I still feel like this question of impact is still happening because a lot of more adulty adults still impact me to this day. So yeah, that's like the main thing for the moment.
I know. Knowing you, people always mistaking you for a little child because of your youthful look, but you're indeed an adult, and it's good to have you. Which you're still being impacted by life and by people today, but it's always about where does it start. So you're studying criminology and forensic science, and that sounds scary, and sounds like what I would see in the movies and on those shows. So tell us a bit about what that entails.
So I mean, criminology and forensics, like we have done the thing with the white suits, the CSI, going to the fake crime scenes and they test us on those kind of things. So we did do that, but a lot of it is actually managing like criminal investigation. So why do people commit crime? I guess that's the study of criminology. Like we've done psychology modules that kind of go behind the minds of the criminals, which I think is really fascinating. A lot of these things like start from childhood. And I would say I'm quite passionate about the lives of children and making sure children are heard because they are still like valuable members of society. So a lot of the times, we hear this like thing of our children should be seen and not heard. But actually what a lot of uni has taught me is that the childhood of a lot of people, their development can have a great, like it can change the course of their life. So we learn a lot about that as well. And this year I've got a really interesting module, which I start in January, which is forensic psychology. So I think I've been looking forward to this since I started. So yeah.
Now, was your part in going into criminology and this study, was it influenced by any of the shows that you watched as a child?
Probably, and probably a lot of the books that I read as well. Like, I read the Secret Seven, the Famous Five, like all the Enid Blyton, like all of those kind of books, or even like the more girly ones like Mallory Towers, where they have to figure out like who's done it. All of these kind of things more things that I read, even things like Scooby-Doo, like it sounds silly, but we all have this element of we want to, solve the mystery. And so now I think that did play a part in what I wanted to study. And I was really lost for a while about what I wanted to choose to do at university. Because, you get told it's such a big decision. It's like this thing that's going to impact the rest of your life. And I was like, I can't make the wrong choice. Meanwhile, it's probably not the end of the world. Like I know people that joined uni and they changed their course after like 2 days, but I didn't really know I could do that. So I was like so scared about this decision. So it was after a lot of thought that I was like, okay, I think this is a good path to go down, kind of.
Why didn't you know that you could make that decision? What was it that made you want to think that you have to make this right decision or else that's the end of the world? What was it that made you feel that way?
Oh, okay. I feel like within myself, I'm a bit of a perfectionist anyway. I think, obviously these things come from like childhood. Like when I was younger, I did do well in school and stuff. Not that I don't do well now, but when I was younger, I did well in school. And so it made me feel like, okay, I have to be of that standard. So if I don't know, I'd rather just not do it because I'm scared that I'll do it and I'll do it wrong. So I went through sixth form and I did biology, chemistry, and maths, and I was like, okay, the logical thing is to go into medicine. And then I sat down and I started thinking about it, and I was like, I don't really know if I want to do that. But I was like, what do I want to do if not that? Because I hadn't thought about my options really. So I think I kind of had tunnel vision of there are certain things that you can do, and so the rest of it was unknown. And I went to a grammar school, and just yesterday, me and my friend, we were discussing like the concept of grammar schools. So we discussed grammar schools and we were like, they didn't actually prepare us for further opportunities. So currently she does a degree apprenticeship. And we weren't really told about those. We were just kind of told, you do your A-levels, you go to a Russell Group university, and after that, the rest is history. So if I'd have explored myself, or if I'd been told just a little bit more, like my school did well, but they didn't inform us of wider ranges of options. So probably that kind of would have changed things a bit.
So we are getting a bit of, the things that, have been happening recently in your life. But I want to go back into Breanna, the little girl. And we are going to come back to talking about your university and high school, grammar school days. But the little girl, Breanna, remind us of the earliest thing you can remember of primary school or prep school, basic schools.
The earliest thing I can remember. Okay, so I do remember my nursery, which is interesting. I remember I had a birthday at a nursery. I think it was like 4 or 3. I don't really remember. I don't know what age. But I had a birthday at nursery. This is like one of the only birthday parties I had. And so I remember my dad dropped me off with a big like black bin bag full of like party stuff. And then my nursery had like the whole party for me. I don't know if that's what you're looking for. That's my earliest memory.
That's your earliest
education.
That's fine. You something you can remember from then. Now, what do you think you were like as a child? And you said earlier on you were a perfectionist and you always did well. How were you during primary school years? And was there any teacher that stood out for you that impacted you while you were there?
So I think I started off more outgoing. Not to jump back to uni, but since being at uni, I realized people say to me, "Oh, you're a bit of a social butterfly," and I was like, "No, I'm not," because majority of primary school I was actually quite introverted. So I think I started off like reception and like that kind of those years more outgoing, but I kind of really like closed in on myself as I went through.
Why was that?
So I don't know. I think some of it was to do with like I wasn't like bullied, but some of it was to do with like just like teasing from other kids. So I thought like you stay more quiet, you kind of like more reserved. There's not really much to pick on, because in my mind, if someone picks on me about something, it's because it's something wrong. So I'd rather not be criticized. So it's that like I would say more quiet to avoid that, I think.
It's interesting. I've spoken to other people, and that kind of came out of, didn't want to be teased, didn't want to be bullied, so you kept to yourself, or you were reserved. So that has impacted you in growing up then in primary school, that what others were saying, what others did, and how others were treated and what they said about others impacted you to kind of close up. You would say that's right?
Yeah, like with, and not only others, but to me, myself as well. Like even I used to really like celebrate my achievements in primary school. But then, as you get older, like you feel some type of resentment from others, perhaps like, oh, they're not doing as well. So you stop talking about the good things that you're doing because you don't want to come across in that kind of way. And like I've had it said to me like at places where it's like, oh, like you're really smart, and I'm like, oh no, like downplaying yourself because you don't want to, like, I don't know. And I think it's bad because I would tell someone else, like, don't do that. Like celebrating your
achievements.
I don't know, your accomplishments. But
yeah.
Then to myself, I would think, no, they.
So you're saying, you know, you in terms of your teachers, who impacted you then?
Okay. So I always say my favorite teacher was my year 5 teacher, because I think she, you know, I don't really know why, but she was always really fun. But I also did well in her class, and it was one of those things where she pushed me without being like overbearing about it. But she also allowed me to like acknowledge that I was good in these things. Like, I don't know, it was a very healthy learning environment for me, I think. And it grew my confidence a bit as well, because I remember one day I did work in class, but I don't know what I did. I think I was writing, but like not writing like to my best, or like I was just really sloppy with it. And she was like, I brought my book up to her to show I had finished, and she was like, Breanna, you can do better than that, blah, blah, blah. And I think it was this thing where she was strict, but she was nice. So you didn't want to disappoint her, but you could also like not be fearful that she was going to be horrible. So I don't know, I always look back and I say that she was my favorite teacher.
So it was her confidence in you, but also making you feel comfortable, that made a difference. And do you find that as you went through school, teachers that had a greater impact on you? And which were the ones who didn't have that impact, that you know, all children will say they resent these teachers, didn't like these teachers. What was it that you didn't like about these teachers, and how did that work?
Okay, yeah. So as I went through school, through the whole journey, I always had like these, especially because I went to girls' schools, these female teachers that really stood out. Like, they really resonated with me, like in terms of how, first of all, I think it was part of it was that the confidence that they had within themselves, like they carried themselves, like they knew what they were talking about, they enjoyed what they were doing, and then they also had like conveyed that same confidence into you. So my year 9 to 11 English teacher was like my all-time favorite teacher, because once again, she was strict. You can't hand in a bad piece of work to her, but she was also like empowering. She was funny. She just led our class. Like, she had such control over the class, but we were all still having a great time in the lesson. And those were some of my best GCSEs, like, was English. So I think that was part of it. On top of that, you said teachers that were the other way around, right? So I think in secondary school, we always used to say about teachers that you could tell hated their job. Like, we would just be like, oh, you can tell she just hates it, like she doesn't even want to be here. And then after that, you just kind of dislike them more. Like, I had this one science teacher, and she was my form teacher for a bit, and we just couldn't, half of us just couldn't stand her. Like, she just was miserable every day, seemed like, I don't like these students, I don't like this job. And there were some times where maybe in like chemistry or something, she would seem more, I guess that's her passion.
Yeah.
But from once you've gathered that tone of like, you don't seem to like this, we don't seem to like you, because you're not liking your job means you don't like us, because we are the job, we're the students. So
that's an interesting take, you know, and for those teachers who are listening out there, is about how just your presence make a difference to children, either liking and you know, seeing that you don't really like your job. And you talk about carrying yourself, how the teachers, the female teachers, you know, you see how they were dressed and how they carry themselves. It made a difference to you. And so it's not something that a teacher might say, but it's what they do. Would you say that's a fair?
Yeah, I think that's very fair. It's all part of the package, isn't it? Like, it goes together. What they say is still important, but how you say something, how you do something often has that follow through. So I think when the teachers were saying the right things, perhaps, like even probably the teachers that we didn't like, they were still saying the right thing. They still had the right information for us, probably still encouraged us. But the way you say it can change everything. So yeah, I think that's very important.
So the teachers out there, it's important how you carry yourself, how you act, how you show confidence to others. That will help. Now, that's teaching, that's the teachers and a few teachers you have mentioned, primary school, high school. Now, let's talk about family. How would you say your mom or your dad was more influential to you, or it had more of an impact on you?
I think that my parents, they're quite different, like quite different ends of the spectrum. And I think if I had too much of either of them, it wouldn't be like the best of environments. My mom is more performance driven. Like she would be the one who's more likely to like push me to do well, like probably more regimented. My dad may not be of that like strictness. Like he's more relaxed, more, you better yourself through reading, through finding out, learning in whatever way is like more possible. So I feel like too much of my mom would have just been like, work, 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 perform. Too much of my dad would have been run through a field and like maybe too much freedom. So with them together, I think I've been able to form more of a healthy relationship with education.
So it's a balance.
I still care about how well I do, but I also realize that there's more to learning than just grades. You have to enjoy something. You have to pursue your passions, but also still keep learning throughout everything that you're doing. So I think they balance.
The balance here. So do you find traits of your parents in you?
Yeah, even when I don't like it, I do. Yeah.
What you don't like? Which trait you find that you don't like?
Sometimes I think I can be a bit like, I don't know, I can be a bit of a perfectionist.
Do you find traits of your parents in you, and which traits you think you don't like finding in you?
Oh, okay, here's one. I realized that I really like routines. It's like I feel like it sounds so boring when you say it, like, oh, I like things to be on a routine. But I really like routines. I like to be on time to places most of the time. I don't know, I like having a structure about my day, about my things. And I know that's probably more from my mom. And I used to think when I was younger, oh, it's so boring to like a schedule. But now I'm like, oh, without a schedule, I feel like I waste time of my day. So obviously it's a good thing, but I feel like before I viewed it as like, I don't like this, it's boring,
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, we all pick up something from our parents along the way, and it has impacted us in some way. Now, throughout your life, you mentioned reading a lot and you like to read. What have you read that have lasted with you and made an impact on you too in life?
What have I read? Oh, I've read a lot of things. Probably the things that have had the most impact on me are like fictional things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, the books with more, even the things that are about real life, like even, I remember you gave me this big set of Jacqueline Wilson books.
Yeah.
And like, those are still, like, I have some of them at uni with me because I still like to read them. But they're about people's lives. Like, it could be real life, but it's fictional. I really like those kind of books because I think it exposes you to a life other than your own. We learn from like the experiences we go through on like a day-to-day basis, but that's only our perspective of our life, when there's so many other things that's happening to other people, or could be happening to other people. And I think that helps you to kind of have that more open mind of that, I guess.
In terms of your reading, I know you love to read. Anybody know Breanna will always have a book in her bag to read wherever she's going, or books in her bag to read. What made you like reading?
I think probably both my parents, my mum and my dad, they always emphasize the importance of reading. And I still think it's really important. Like at uni, me and my friends will go to bookshops and stuff like for ages because, you know, we realize how important it is and how much of like a book, I don't know, I just have this love for reading. I remember in primary school, we used to have to pick out a book every week or whatever, not from the reading thing. So I think those kinds of things. Plus with my mum, she would take me to the library to do the summer reading challenge. Dad would always say like, oh yeah, you should read more, but he would be like, read non-fiction books. I don't know. So both of them and school as well.
And I know your brother also loved reading just as well. Now, with the advent of technology coming in, and you know, kids nowadays having so much technology and watching, how do you think that have impacted children reading today? And do you think it make a difference?
I think it can make a difference. Yeah. I'm all for technology. Like I do love technology. Makes life easier.
Yeah.
However, I think there has to be like a healthy balance, especially in like childhood, like growing up, development, all of that. Like as a kid, I didn't have as much access as children nowadays do, but I had the computer, like we could go play games at that time, like Club Penguin, like what I don't know, these like games that we would play. But there was more of I didn't have a personal like device until I was in like secondary school. So it does have an impact. And I think if there's a child in a household where they aren't being encouraged to read, of course, a game, a tablet, a phone is going to seem so much more stimulating than reading. So they're going to choose that because it seems more enjoyable. And that's not necessarily the case. So I think it does have an impact, yeah.
Would you say that reading a book is better than watching the movie of the book?
Yeah, 100%.
What's the difference?
In my opinion, okay, when you read something, you get, for example, the character description, and in books, they can describe a character and you can feel like the whole essence of the person without much physical description. So you can imagine kind of like what they look like in your head to an extent.
Yeah.
You can like put it together. Also, like the way that the words, like the authors put the words together, you feel like you can be inside of the story, watching it happen around you. With a movie, you know, I'm watching a screen of actors. Sometimes they miss things out. Just read, the book is always better than the film.
Yeah, it's something we all need to encourage our children to do, is to read, because it's that picture that you create in your mind, and you actually, when you're reading, you're creating a movie in your mind. Whereas when you watch, it's just the movie that is being, whatever they depict for you is what you see, and there's no creativity in your mind. So that's very important. Now, Breanna, okay, we talk about teachers, we talk about your parents as an impact on you and having influence in your life so far. Was there any celebrities that you had while you were growing up? You probably had a poster on your wall and you read about them and you follow them to a bit and think, oh man, if I could be like them, if I could have what they have?
Not really. I was really late to the scene in like so many things. So I think during that time, I didn't really know of celebrities like enough to think of them as like an idol or something to aspire to. And now at the age where I do like have aspirational people, there are people in real life that I know who are achieving really great things. That's probably a really boring answer, isn't it? But
no, it's fine. You talk about aspirational people. Who are those aspirational people now? So never the celebrities that you see, but aspirational people who are doing real things in real life. Who are those?
Oh yeah, there's family friends, like for example yourself, Breanna Robinson, and Pet. Who else? there's people who I went to school with who are probably, they're like the same age as me, but I took a gap year, so they've just finished uni, whereas I'm in my last year. And some of the things that I see some of them doing, I'm like, oh, this is really good. Like, that's aspirational. I can achieve this as well, or this would be a nice thing to achieve. Who else? There's Joanna as well. Like, all of these people have in some way like really shaped like the path that I'm going down or trying to go down. So yeah, those.
Tell us a bit more about some of these people. You mentioned Joanna, you mentioned Lane. Tell us how they have, impacted you, influenced you on the path you're going now. What have they done to achieve that?
Okay, so earlier when I said like, oh, I was really confused, like I didn't really know what to do in terms of going into university, what I wanted to do. So I just done my exams, my A-level exams, and I had withdrawn my application for university from earlier that year. And I was like, because I don't know what I want to do, I've just withdrawn all of my application. So I sat and I didn't know, and results day came out, and I looked at the clearing options, and I had gotten a clearing place to go to London City University to do biomedical something. And I was on the phone like to them, and I was doing the form, and I got the place, and then I was like, I don't think I really want to do that. I think I'm just doing it because I should go to uni, like, and I was really confused. I didn't know. So I spoke to Joanna, and she came and got me the next day. And then like we had a talk, we walked around, and she was like, what is it that you like want to do? What are the things that like actually inspire you? Instead of things that you just think you should be doing, like make a more educated choice. And this was even just in choosing something to study.
Yeah.
So I think it stood out to me that she took the time out of her day to come and like collect me from my house, to take me, to help me think this decision through. And then she took me to Uncle Lane's house, and there he like spoke through with me like more options. We went through this like career kind of like finding thing. I don't know, you can probably do like these things online, but he had it in this big book where you like answer the questions. And when I went through it, like showed me, and there we're able to look at courses, and I found things that like resonated with me. So more social sciences rather than straight sciences, and more social sciences rather than just literature-based study. So they were able to really, really direct my path. Like if I hadn't had that day, like going through that like discussion, having it out loud rather than just having it in my head with myself or with my mum and my dad, where I already know what they're going to say, or their answer sometimes even if they were saying the same thing, it doesn't hit you as much as if someone else is saying it. So with them, with those two people helping me, it like actually sent me on the path to university. And now, like, because I'm applying to like my postgrad degree and stuff, I look back at it and I don't think I'd be doing the things that I'm doing without them helping me.
It's interesting that you talk about that, the development, that there's someone to talk to other than your parents, because it's almost as if you know what your parents are going to say, and to have someone else to support you in that. Is that do you think that we need more of that for people who are going into education, to have a part where they can speak to someone else to help them, guide them on the decisions they make?
Definitely. I think it's important like to have that kind of mentor, or even if it is a teacher, just like, I don't know, forming those interpersonal relationships where you can be able to impact like students or younger people to help them make better decisions. Because like you said, sometimes parents' words fall on deaf ears.
Yeah.
So it's always better to have that other figure that you look up to talk to. I think so.
Good. So you have been supported by these adults, and you are now on the path to doing some work. And I'm sure as you go through after university, I always say you might end up the job you're doing now, or the path you're on now will definitely not be the path you end up in. Do you think you're studying criminology now? Do you think you will go on to another path or something else?
It's funny you say that, because I want to apply to a postgraduate degree in education. So it's whenever I tell people that, they're like, oh, so you want nothing to do with your degree? And I'm like, it's not that, but I just think this is better suited to me. Like, I don't know. It's not like my degree wasn't a waste of my time. I enjoyed it. And there are still things that I want to apply from my degree in further life. Like, I can always go back into it. I don't mind. But for the moment, I think that there are things that are more, I don't know, they're more enticing to me in terms of like teaching, especially with like younger age groups. I don't know.
Why the switch to education? What is it that is pulling you into education? What have there someone influencing you to that, or something that you have done, your experience as a child? What is it?
Okay, so there's all of those things. So, for example, all my life I've been surrounded by teachers. So my mom is a maths teacher. My dad was a teacher. You're a teacher. I just teachers everywhere. All my mom's friends are teachers. So I've always been in that kind of environment. I remember when I was younger saying to my mum I wanted to be a teacher. She was like, why? And I was like, okay, maybe not. But then as I've grown up, I've always found myself in positions like where an element of teaching is involved. Like always. So for example, with Brits Kids, with VBSs, when you start, like when you're doing the stools or the science experiments, there's something that you're teaching.
Yeah.
Like there's a part of it. And I realized, okay, it's not like teaching is easy. I know that's definitely not the case, but it's something that came easily to me. Like in terms of those like small experiences that I've had, it's something that I thought, oh, this feels comfortable. I'm not forcing it to like try, like
it's a natural thing in you.
Yeah. So I was like, why should I like put that to the side? When clearly I think that's something that I would want to do. So I was toying with the idea for quite a while. And then as university started coming to an end, I've had more experience. So over summer, I worked with NCS, which is the National Citizen Service. And so I worked with leading 15, 16-year-olds. And even though like 80% of them were taller than me, and like some of them looked older than me through the whole time, I think I was still able to resonate with them, connect with them. And I was like, after this summer, it kind of solidified things. And that's why I've chosen this path. Yeah, so it's a combination of the people directly around me and experience.
So you thinking ahead, then you are in the classroom. What traits of teachers that you have had do you think you'll bring with you, or would it be a different style you bring in the classroom?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think everyone will end up making their own style. I feel like I want to take like little things from different like teachers I've had, different people I know. So like I know that you're like really fun and innovative in the way that you learn like visually, and stuff. Like so I've seen some of the things you've done where you're like, even when your shirt was like all ripped up and stuff. So like what's that called? Like the tactile lessons.
Object lessons.
Yeah, object lessons.
Yes.
That's it. So I've seen that, and I think that's really fun. It's really engaging. It's something that you remember. But also I've seen like how having like a certain level of strictness or like confidence in your place as like at the end of the day, even though this is fun, I'm still the teacher. I've seen how that's like been really important as well. But also I think that's something that I want to try really hard to do, is to connect to students on a more emotional level, because it's great that you're teaching them and they're learning from you, and that, like, that's satisfying in and of itself. But I think having teachers that are emotionally intelligent of their students' needs is really important, because I look back at it and I was quite an emotional child, but I don't think I expressed it as much. Like, I cried a lot, but that's not expressing your emotion necessarily. That's not saying what's wrong.
Yeah.
That's just feeling that you're overwhelmed with something and crying about it. Like, I don't know, they're two different things. So I think encouraging, like, students to be more emotionally aware, like they can speak what's wrong and have that emotional connection, is really important as well.
What would have helped, thinking back now as a child, what would have made a difference to you with those emotions to get it out more as a teacher? What do you think a teacher could have done, and what would you do as a teacher to make sure that doesn't happen in your classroom?
I think this sounds weird, but I've seen a lot of TikToks of like how teachers like do things. And I think with myself, I don't know, just feeling that what I was upset about probably wasn't silly.
Mm.
You know, okay, you understand you're upset, and even if it is a minor thing, that is okay. And then you can overcome it after that. Once you've realized that, like, okay, you've acknowledged it, this has happened, then, you know, I think that kind of helps. What would have helped me more? I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't think of it, but maybe that.
Yeah, I've always said they are good teachers and they're good teaching. So you could be a good teacher or you're good at teaching, but a good teacher is different from good teaching, where, you know, you teach well, but you've lost that connection with children. You're just educating them for education purpose, but being able to connect to children in a more emotional way or, you know, psychological way is quite interesting. And is how do you do that? Now, looking back in what you have experienced, the help that you have gotten from others and how they have made a difference to your life, how do you think you're using that to help others that you're in contact with?
I think, I like to think that with my little brother, I have a good influence on him. Like, I don't know. I would like to think, I know that he still looks up to me in some ways, even though, like, I might annoy him or he might annoy me, I don't know. So I'd like to think that. I like to think with, even though I'm not there a lot, like, even with some of the Bricks kids, like some of them who know me from before, I'd like to think that in some ways I'm able to have an impact. Like, or even with the kids on like the Zoom VBSs and stuff, even though that's been virtual and it's not like as fun as like maybe if you're in person. I like to think that during the COVID time, I was able to help in some way to make their lockdown just that a little bit less boring, you know.
I'm sure the children do appreciate, you know, they have told me many times that they like when you host some of the programs and they look forward to you hosting the programs. And I know you're busy, so they understand that you're busy at uni and you have to get that out of the way. But yeah, the children do look up to you and, you know, are encouraged by you. Now, do you have a saying or a mantra that you go by? And where did you get that from?
Saying or a mantra?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have like things that I say. I think I try to give myself like a word of the year. So my word of this year was like discipline.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like really like harsh, but I think it's important in everything that you do to be disciplined. So you start something, start it well, finish it well. I also think another thing, this is like such a terrible saying. I like to say like it is what it is, or like it's water off a duck's back. Because I also realized that a lot of the times there are a lot of situations in life that you can't control. There are things that you can't like you have no control over it. And I think I like to have control over things that I can't, like it's impossible. So I've been learning and I've been trying to implement more in my life that things that you can't control, you let it be. And if it's meant to work out, it'll work out.
Do you think that control that you try to have in your life is something that you have learned or developed over years, or based on what you have seen around you, or is it otherwise?
I think it's learned and it's just like part of me. Like, so I think it's learned behavior. I know my mom is probably like more learned from her to have that, like want to have things, all the ducks in a line. But that's not how life goes. It's impossible. So I just, and through life as well, I think when you have like, with our education system, you know what the next stage is. You know that, okay, I need to do well in my SATs in year 2, whatever, to go through. Then I need to do well in my year 6 exams to get into secondary school, then GCSEs, then A-levels, then uni. Like, it's so structured that you think that it should just go linearly like this.
Yeah.
And that's not how it goes. Like, it's just all up and down. So I think I wanted to have that control, to always have a backup plan, to always know what's coming next. You can't tell the future, you can't determine these things. So learn to let it go, because there's no way, you'll just be miserable through life trying to control things you have no control over. So I say a lot of the times, probably now it seems like I don't care about things. I do, but I've learned to be like, it is what it is. If it happens, whatever. I don't know, yeah.
And that's a growth mindset that you have to develop, because there's nothing in life that is one straight line. There's always ups and downs, and it's how you deal with it and what you do to control those times when things don't go wrong or don't go right for you. Now, Breanna, we're almost done to the end, and we are with Breanna Robinson, who is a university student, and talking about life from childhood till now, and the impact that adults have had on her, and how she intends to or continues to use that to impact others. What 3 words would you use to describe yourself, Breanna?
Okay, I've got it. So I'm creative. I do think I'm quite, like, I like to learn. I don't know what the word is for that.
Curious.
Okay, yeah. Creative, curious. And then I also think that I'm adventurous. Yeah.
Okay. I'll say a word, and whatever comes to mind, you just say that, right?
Okay. Teachers. I thought of loving. I don't know. That's
of what?
Loving.
Okay.
That's the word that came to mind.
Okay, that's fine. Parents. You're not supposed to be thinking.
Sorry. Safe.
Friends.
Fun.
Family.
That's been my environment. So I'd say like that's my environment.
Opportunities.
Amazing.
Food.
The best thing ever.
Uni.
Hard but good.
10 years from now, I speak to Breanna. Where would she be? What would she be doing? What's life for her?
So, in 10 years, I'll be 31. That's I'd like to think that I'm in a good profession where I can have an impact. That doesn't necessarily mean I'd be a teacher, but if it is, I'd like it to be where I'm not just teaching, like you said. Like, I'd like to have an impact. But I think I'd like to have a family, but that seems like, I don't know. So yeah,
having a family 10 years from now, what things have you learned from your family, from your parents, that you think you would bring into your parenting and your family then?
I think obviously like my parents, they always took me to church and stuff, which is implementing, I think, like some good values that you learn from just being in that environment. So I like to do the same. I'd like to instill the love of knowledge as well. That's something I think I've learned from my parents. And I'd like to just give my child the best opportunities that they can to feel as comfortable as they can. And also as well, I think more so than just you yourself being a parent, the people that you surround your family with are really important, because I wasn't just raised by my parents. I was raised by you. I was raised by so many other people. And I look back at my CV, and I look back at half of the things, and those have all come from people that my parents have brought me around, like majority of my experience from other people helping me. So I think cultivating that good family circle is really important as well.
And it's good to know that, you know, you have a plan for your life and for moving forward. 10 years from now, I'll be looking and seeing, you know, Breanna with her family, bringing up the little ones, and, you know, seeing all of those things, making a great impact. Breanna, it was good having this chat with you. If for all those parents, teachers, or children listening out there, what one advice or one thing you would leave with them?
I think to try your best at every opportunity like you have. We're not perfect, but if you try, at least you know you tried. Even if you fail, you tried. Because I'm scared of failure, but yeah.
All right, keep trying, because even if you fail, it's always about learning from your failures and your mistakes. So thank you again, Breanna, for spending the time to talking with us and sharing your experience in life. Do remember that, you know, it's all about the impact that we have on our children, on the young minds. And remember, lives are influenced by your living. Until next time, it's bye from us.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Bye.